Hey, coaches, welcome back to Football Talk with Coach Chip. We continue the guest coach series that we started in the spring of 2025. And we're going to go over to the defensive side of the football for a five-part special with Coach Jack Byrne, who is a defensive coordinator, former head coach up in New Hampshire. He was previously on the podcast. A lot of you probably heard him on Football Talk with Coach Chip, the podcast. Go back and check that out. And y'all know me, I don't remember the cockeyed episode number, but it was in the 40s. It was toward the end of season 1. And Jack he's been a football coach now for 20 years or so in the New England area, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, that area there. He's been a strength and conditioning guy, human performance, all that stuff. But what he's really done is the way he's taken the 3-3 defense, which I'm partial to, because I think it's a great defense for teams with undersized D linemen where they can create havoc and all this. But he has simplified it in such a way, and he looked at it also from like the mental point of view of it, about giving the kids a sense of ownership in the defense, which I thought was really cool, and you'll get that. And what happened is I asked him to put together, would he be on the guest coach series here on Football Talk with Coach Chip on YouTube? And he said, of course I will. And just a great guy, very gracious. And, the more I do this and I'm reaching out to people around the country and around the world even, the more I'm finding out that there's nice people outside the South too. Y'all, that's sarcasm. I have to be careful. I don't know how well you people know me and how much you pay attention to my little snarkiness. But he's been able to take this and give the kids a sense of ownership. And when he started talking, and I said, Coach, you got to do the whole thing, man. And I said, listen, I like 30-minute segments at max, but I can break it up. And so I broke it up. I got a couple of, around 30. One thing is like 17-minute episode. And then one's like 40 or 50. But hey, you got a pause button. You can come back to it. But so many of y'all have been faithful viewers, subscribers to Football Talk with Coach Chip since it started back in 2020. And it primarily has been offense, because that's what my area of expertise or focus for the last 20 plus years of my career. And I want to talk about what I know. And I'm trying to get more defensive guys on here because they know the modern stuff. And I say that, and here's why. What happened was, when I made the move to go almost full-time on offense in the 90s, it was just because that's where the head coach put me. And right after that is when the spread revolution happened. The early 90s is when the air raid started blooming, becoming well known. And by the 2000s, it was all over. And it was impacting football everywhere. Well, it impacted defense. And see, when I was coaching defense and when I was a defensive coordinator, it was cover 3, cover 2. Every now and then you'd see quarters, every now and then. And man, some variation of man 1 high, man 2 high. And that was it. You didn't have all this stuff because you didn't need it. Because the offensive attacks, the passing attacks, weren't as sophisticated as they are today. And so I have not been on that side of the ball. I can see what they're doing, but I'm not fluent in the language. And so that's why I want to get more defensive coaches on here and for them to explain this. But this is great stuff. This is part 1. All right, let's do our commercials and pay a few bills. Of course, Football Talk with Coach Chip, since the spring of 2025, has been powered by Just Play Sports Solutions, the My Just Play app that I've been using since the spring of 2021. All of my diagrams that I've used on the videos I've made since 2021 have come from Just Play Sports Solutions and my Just Play app. And what's great about it is you get to keep it. It's not like you got to download it from Huddle when you change programs. It's yours. You keep it. But they also, here's their moneymaker to me. This is the key thing. You buy the team package and your players get an app on their phone. So when you create a playbook, when you diagram, by the way, the diagrammer, the play drawer, it's the best one ever. And I've used them all. I mean, if it was out there, I used it over the years. And this is the easiest one, the best one I've used. Look at the diagrams I've made since 21, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But when you make a playbook, when you make scout cards, when you create a scouting report, when you do a game plan, you can share it to your kids. They'll have it with them all the time because it's on their phone. Since players never go anywhere without their phones, they'll always have their playbook. They'll always have their game plan. They'll always have their scouting report. It's all right there. You can add video to the diagrams, which brings them to life, just like I do here on Football Talk with Coach Chip. And it's just the best thing going. So you don't have to print. You don't even have to print out your scout cards for your scout offense or scout defense. You just create them and have them on your iPad and just show them to the kids in the huddle at practice, and boom, they go do it. And you don't have to worry about filing away from when you play that team next year because it's filed away, saved in the app. My Just Play takes care of that for you. Contact my friend, Coach Brad Rumsey. You know he's good people because he's a former O-line coach. You can contact him by email at brumsey@justplayss.com. Or you can hit him up like I do. Just call Brad at 517-937-5433 and tell him old Coach Chip sent you. And y'all, I'm telling you, let them turn you on to this stuff. It's the best thing going. Like I said, I paid for it myself out of my pocket back in 2021 because I got tired of downloading things from Huddle, and keep making it my own. Having a system is important. Listen. The gun power spread system is only $100. Folks, it covers everything from soup to nuts. It has periodic updates. I've already updated the first edition. And all you got to do is hit me up at siegel.chip@gmail.com and say, hey, Coach, I want to check out your gun power spread system. I send it to you. And I say, hey, Coach, check it out. See if it's what you want. Because the last thing I want to do is take money from somebody and leave them dissatisfied. And leave them like, man, this was a bunch of bull crap. Because I've bought stuff off the internet for many years now. And it's always been a crapshoot. And you get it and you go like, oh, yeah, that's okay. And so you spend some money and then, you're just trying to find one thing. And sometimes I didn't find anything. And so now I'm saying, here, I'll send it to you. I'll email it to you. You check it out. That's how confident I am that you'll find something. You'll find so many things in the GPS, you go like, holy crap, this is good stuff Coach Chip's come up with. And really I didn't. I stole it from a lot of people and had a lot of help from coaches on staff with me over the years to come up with the gun power spread system. I call it GPS for short. And I'm not one of those guys that tried to give my offense a cutesy name. It didn't have a name for years until I wrote it down and created a one package. And I had to have a system. And I tell people, I said, Chip's offense just doesn't sound right. Who's going to buy? Oh, look, it's Chip's offense. It just doesn't roll off the tongue like West Coast or Air Raid, does it? And so I came up with this name just because it's got to have a name. And I'm not an expert marketer. I didn't work on Madison Avenue. So check it out. It's good stuff. I love it. And the coaches everyone I've sent it to, not a single person that I've sent it to has hit me back and said, Coach, I looked at it. It's just not my thing. If you're an under center guy, you're going to get a ton out of it. If you're a gun guy, a pistol guy, you're going to get something out of it. I promise. Because the roots of this offense were under center. And when our players changed, we changed with it. And that's why it became a gun offense. But you can still, basically everything we do can be done under center, except for the RPOs. I don't think you can run the power read the way that we ran it from under center either, but you could try it. But except for the read stuff, it all carries over under center, and it's good stuff. I really enjoy it. All right, the offensive line manual still going strong. This week, I've taken a few weeks off because my wife and I have been going out of town and doing some vacation and stuff. And also, a good friend of mine got married. If you listen to the podcast, Josh Pate, the guy that introduces the podcast, he finally tied the knot. And we went down to Biloxi and had a great time with him and his family and a lot of people that I've known for years that I haven't seen for years were down there. And it was a cool thing. And that's why you haven't heard much from me. But so I come back and I check my emails and I've got all these orders, people asking about the GPS. But guess what else? They're asking about the offensive line manual for gap down backer blocking, which is only $29.99 on Amazon. But if you buy it directly from me, you got to pay me an extra penny because I'm going to ship it to you and also send you the ebook. By the way, I just got an email this morning from a coach who had bought it off Amazon and heard on the podcast or on the YouTube channel that they could get a free ebook. That's right. You buy one, you get the other free. So if you buy the ebook from me, I'll send it to you right away. You send me your address. I mail you a copy of the offensive line manual paperback. So you'll have something to highlight and write in the margins in. But you'll also have the ebook to make presentation to your coaches. It's full of videos too. Even the paperback is full of videos. How'd you do that, Coach? Hey, listen here, I'm a high-tech redneck. QR codes, baby. All of the video links plus 15 more new ones that weren't in the original offensive line ebook are in the paperback. Oh, by the way, I added those 15 new ones to the end of the ebook too. So those are in there. So you're not getting shortchanged. If you bought the ebook 2-3 years ago when it first came out, hit me up and let's talk about getting you a copy of the paperback as well. So check out the offensive line manual for gap down backer blocking, unleashing the power of angles and leverage. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel and check out our, what now it's like 60 free resources available to subscribers. Just for subscribing to the channel, it opens that up. So join the over 4,000 coaches who have already subscribed. Do it today. And there's the list. It's 56 on this list. I think it's 60 now. I think it is. And hit me up and I will send you anything on this list. I'll send it to you. Also, I mentioned it. Check out the podcast. It's everywhere you find podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and there's 4 or 5 others that I'm not familiar with that I checked it out a few weeks ago and I said, oh, wow, it's there too. And they all kind of pick up on each other's podcasts, and I don't know how that works, but they all do it. All kind of great guests. We've done 50 episodes. I'm taking a couple of weeks off. Going to start season 2 in a couple of weeks with a very special guest. I'm nailing the details down as we speak. Thanks to Brian Hale, who does our music on the podcast and on this here YouTube channel. Brian Hale will help you figure it out. You can find him at Hale Yeah Digital, and he takes care of things for us from the music point of view. You can see down here at the bottom of the card, haleyeahdigital@gmail.com, and they have a website, haleyeahdigital.com, and they do that beautiful theme music. Don't forget, you can help old Coach Chip out and support Football Talk with Coach Chip at buymeacoffee.com/Coach Chip. You can do it because I was able to set up the account. And if I can set it up, you can participate in it. That's for sure. And there again, there's our freebies. Well, let's get started. Let's go over and talk with Coach Jack Byrne, defensive coordinator at Campbell High School in Litchfield, New Hampshire. All right, coaches, like I said in the intro, our guest today is Coach Jack Byrne, previously on the podcast. And he's going to talk to us about his 3-3 stack and how he does it. We got into it a little bit, Coach, when you were on the podcast, and that's why I wanted to bring you back on the guest coaches series. So, Coach Byrne, take over, man.
All right, buddy, let's go. Hey, great talking to you again, and great having everybody here. So I'll share my screen. All right, so my presentation today, I'm going to talk about our 3-3 defense, mainly focusing on the alignment, the coverage, and blitzes. And even further, really focusing on really simplifying things so that kids can have ownership over this. And the reason that I do it, really comes from the way that I had to coach over the last 10, 15 years. And, we had a lot of situations where we were either the underdog, being the small school going against bigger schools. I myself had 2 little kids at home, so I was really overworked. I needed to simplify things. And to me, my staff was awesome, but they were a lot of guys that had, full-time jobs or kids going to college or little kids themselves. And really, I started to find that, I had to plan for the worst case scenario so often. So, we started simplifying, we started trimming down the playbook, and every time we trimmed it down, we got better. And I think it culminated in 2014, which is too long ago now. I wish we won more than that. But in 2014, we won the state championship up in New Hampshire with a school that was only 4 or 5 years old at the time. And I think that was a great year for us because I just had my son. My son was born 2 or 3 months before the season, and that was our best season. So I had no time to coach. I had no time to watch film, and we trimmed it down, and I gave a bunch of ownership to the players and told them I loved them and I needed them and I needed their help, and they answered the call so much. So from then on, really up until now, I've still done it that way. It's helped me really, be at home with my kids and be confident that I'm doing the right thing without having to spend 100 hours on film. I'm all for grinding. I'm all for the hard work of the weight room and working harder than everybody else, but I'm not into the unnecessary work. So that's really my crowd, is the underdogs and the overworked coaches. That's kind of my wheelhouse. So if you fit into those, I think you'll like some of this stuff.
I think that covers most of us, Coach.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, at some point, we've all been there, and
Yes,
really hats off to the guys that got above my level, because they're so good, and they're running great programs, and somehow they're making it work. I know they have good families, and they have supportive wives, and they're building relationships with their kids too. But I don't think there's a lot of places that really do that. So I'd love to learn from them. But I think where I'm at and where I've come from, there are a lot of people that can relate to this. So hopefully it'll help. So what I'm doing right now, I just stepped down from my head job at Windham High School. So a lot of the colors on this PowerPoint will be Windham blue and gold, and my dream job for sure. But when my kids hit middle school, I stepped down last fall, and now I'm going to be taking over as a D coordinator at Campbell High School, which is a real small school up in New Hampshire, about 350 kids. So another population that I can relate to now, really working with small schools. So one of my goals, beyond working more with my own kids and being around my wife, is to try to help coaches that have been where I was, whether it's coaching at a small school, coaching at a school that is much smaller than your opponents, and really, to be pretty vulnerable about it, the coaches that get really anxious and overworked and they're perfectionists and we're just doing too much. So I think we get a lot of them out there, and if you can relate to any of that, please reach out. Let's work together and get some things going. So for my system that's coming together over the next month or so is called Foundation Football. So it's really getting back to those basics, whether it's the basics you have to do because you're an underdog, you don't have time to do all the other stuff, or you're someone who's kind of overworked and you've gone a little too far into the craziness of football and you got to get back to the basics. So please email me, follow me. I'd love to get some forums going where we're finalizing the course. I want to make sure I cover all the stuff that is actually needed by this group of coaches. I don't want to assume that everybody has the same needs that I had. So hopefully between podcasts like this and some meetings that I host, we can get some real good programs out there for coaches like that.
Coach, speaking of podcasts and you being a 3-3 guy at a smallish school, let me get this plug in. Just yesterday, I released, I think it was episode 47, I'm not sure, of the podcast, and was Coach Jeff Comfort from Lincoln Christian in Tulsa, Oklahoma. School almost identically the same size as yours in the 350 range.
Yeah.
And he runs a 3-3 stack.
Great.
So there's a little bit, and I didn't plan this with you. This is just when you could do it and all, but I'm going to hook you two guys up, by the way, because I think y'all could, basically same kind of size school, mid 300s. But coaches, go check that out.
on the podcast, the one with Coach Jeff Comfort of Lincoln Christian, and go back and check out the one with Coach Byrne too, because the last half of that podcast, we did get into defense and some X's and O's. And I had to take a bath afterwards after talking all that defense, but it was okay.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
go ahead.
Put your visor back on and get in the yeah, man. So, yeah, and really, I do think the 3-3 is probably it's the best place to start because you can always move guys up. I'm not sure you can always deploy players back when you want to look multiple, when you want to actually be multiple, or you want to fool people into thinking you're multiple. It's a lot easier to do it from the back end up to the front. So before we start, one thing I always cover before any before any defensive stuff is making sure that your off-season speed and strength is on point. And, a little bit of a plug here, but, none of this works unless your kids are working hard through the off season. And one thing that's helped me a ton over the last year is working with Tully. It's a platform developed by two Harvard offensive linemen, one that made it to the NFL, Adam Redmond, who played for the Cowboys, Ravens, and Colts. And it's a really simple platform that you create your metrics. The data gets submitted. There's a lot of programs like it, but it's so basic and it just stores the data. And the best part is that it can create Tully scores, which are basically 1 to 100 Madden ratings for your kids, which to me that's all the kids need to take care of their end of the bargain, where they have that competition of, I'm an 89 rating and I want to get to a 91. I got to catch my friend. So I should be in the gym more. I should be, looking to get some better sleep and eat better so my scores go up in the weight room. So for me, it's just, I'm not a big tech guy. I'm always as simple as I can. So when this came along and I found out that tech could be simple, I jumped on it. So if that fits anybody, if people are looking for, finding ways to get their kids more motivated, that's just, please reach out, because Adam and those guys are so flexible and I'll get you 10% off. I'll get you more off if you really need it, because they support those small schools with the rough budgets and the tough situations. So really, whatever you need, it's a coaching type of situation. It's not a salesman situation. So reach out if any of that is for you.
Do the kids get an app on their phone they can keep up?
Yeah, so they can do a web-based app, so they can submit it from their phone. They can submit it from the computer. If you have a team lift, I don't like the phones in the weight room, so you can submit them there. But let's say I got kids that are lifting at 3 different gyms over April vacation. It's really nice to know they can just put their scores in and keep their data updated. And we actually just got literally just before you, Coach, I was on a Zoom with Alan Lamassney, who is one of the go-to guys for Ireland, Irish American football.
He's been on my podcast.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, great.
Yeah, I love him, man. Adam Lamassney. Oh, yeah, we had a great time. He's a big Chicago Bears fan.
He is the man. So we were talking about, his environment has kids training from all over the country. So he only gets to practice with his kids once or twice a month. So to try to do a strength session is not, it's not a good decision. It's not a good use of time.
Right.
So to have a place where those kids can enter their data from their different counties and their different gyms and still have that family atmosphere of we're all kind of training together because we're competing is really good. And I think a lot of high schools have the same thing, whether it's a small school who has, kids that, I don't know, out in the middle of the country, some kids are driving an hour away from their house to get to their high school.
Yeah.
It's tough to ask them to stay later.
Those kids are practicing football more than twice a month, but they're practicing with him twice a month because they're on the Irish national team.
Correct.
Yeah,
right. They get a little bit more, but they're definitely not getting the same amount as our kids get.
Correct.
But
they're playing with their local club team, but they're really good, so they're also on the national team, and he gets them twice a month. Yeah. Right. I remember that from our conversation. Go check that podcast out, coaches. The Irish coach.
Yeah. Any coaches over here get the guys over in Europe are so open. They're so excited about it, whether it's Ireland or Germany or England. I mean, they're fired up. So really cool for those types of programs. But I think we have a lot of programs like that over here where, strength and conditioning just isn't as pretty as some of the YouTube videos where there's, 15 squat racks and everybody's in line and everybody listens to the coach's whistle and stuff. It's just not like that everywhere. I wish it was, and hats off to those guys. But for the places where it gets a little bit more confusing and you need it simple, I would recommend that a lot. And please reach out if that interests you.
That's good stuff.
Thanks. Yeah. So My overall approach with pretty much everything is to simplify. I'm a big minimalist. Not to push people off your podcast, Coach, but anybody that looks at theminimalist.com or the Minimalist podcast, that's a good one to help us fellow overthinkers and anxious people about decluttering our life, decluttering everything from your room to your desktop to your playbook, and usually less is going to be better for a lot of people. So I adopted that way of coaching right around when my kids were born. And really my whole life, I've been someone who gets overwhelmed. I mean, I just like a lot of coaches, we want to be perfect. We want to be really good. We hide it, we bottle it, but we really are never satisfied. And that can be good as far as our work ethic, but it's not always good as far as getting results. So, I simplified because I get overwhelmed. That we don't want that paralysis by analysis, whether it's your, overthinking your training or overthinking your game planning and your playbook. I simplify because I have family at home, and I think everybody across the country talks relationships, and I think we should take action on that and make sure that that's what we're doing. And we just want to make sure that our kids are happy and healthy, our own kids and our players. And nowadays, I mean, why simplify? In my area, there's a coaching shortage. We definitely have a different stipend situation. It's definitely a part-time stipend type situation in a lot of areas of the country. And I want good coaches. I want high character coaches on my staff, and I don't want to say no to them just because they have to miss a day because they have a job that they really have to care about, or they get a little kid at home. So I needed to simplify the defense. And then for our own kids, player ownership. I want to bring it down to a level where kids can understand, kids can adapt and be a part of the plan. They want to know why. It's, generation, whatever they call it, and they want to know why they're doing it. And I want to tell them, and I want to help them lead. I want to give them some opportunities where they're not just following a grown-up. I don't want them to just, you got to listen to a grown-up to get the answers. I want them to find the answers themselves. And, that's bigger than football, but it also helps us win. So, like it says in step 5 there, right? It does win on the field. Every time I've simplified, I can't think of a time where I really said, you know what, I really should put in those 3 more blitzes or made it more complex. I can't think of a time I've done that. So underdogs and stressed out coaches, usually we got to get the best 11 on the field and just go play. All right. So
especially on defense, man, those kids, it's got to be simple because they got to attack. Yeah. And that's not talking down on defense. Defense needs to be attacking.
Yeah.
And the more sure they are of themselves, the more aggressive they'll be.
And we always have kids, and I'm sure you have too, where they're not stupid, but their intelligence is in their physical instincts. And to try to turn them into a student of the game and give them this complex situation, I'm a 42-year-old slow guy. They don't need to see the game the way I do. I need to make sure I get to their level. And the kid who is just super fast and athletic but can't grasp a deep playbook, I need to have a role for that kid. I got to make sure that kid can play.
Let me tell you something that goes along with that. I've always said, he said, well, Coach, I said, don't think. If I wanted to coach thinkers, I'd coach the chess team.
Yeah.
And I've said that a lot over the years. Well, one day a coach heard me say it, and afterwards he told me, he said, you know what, Coach? And he said, you're right. He said, but you know what to help them? And I said, what? He said, quit giving them so much to think about.
Yep.
Oh, you're talking about cutting me clean to the bone. That we want them to not be thinkers, to be reactors, which is what you're getting at.
Yep.
But then we give them so much information, they can't help but think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a Boston one for you that you might not, you probably don't use down south, but we said, you know what happened to thought, Coach, when people think? He thought he farted and crapped his pants. And so it doesn't matter what he thought, did it? So you can think whatever you want, but if you crap your pants and don't perform, then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where you really don't want to think. You want to know what you're doing. So anyway, today we're focused on defense, but the program that I'm building over the next few months, I really want to hit these major elements. I mean, I know there's 12 of them, but a lot of them tie in together. And those are the areas that I go throughout the year, and I'm constantly just trimming down to the absolute essentials, so that I know if I just give an elevator speech to a kid about their health, their habits, and their lifestyle, I know I've done my job. I know I didn't overthink it. I know I gave them good information that can help them be a better player. And then I have a little bit more time to go, ask them other questions about their life and not just be a football coach. So, and that goes all the way through. But today we're talking defense, so let's roll. Same thing here. I just ask coaches to look at all those areas, and I'm a big fan of the 1 to 4 scale. Really rate yourself on your program, and is it a 1 to a 4 as far as quality and simplicity and your confidence? And if you got a 1 or a 2 in any of those things, I would say reach out. Definitely, because I can tell you I've probably been more confused than you. So I hope I get to talk to some coaches that are struggling. All right, so let's play here. Here we go. So our alignment in the 3-3. I'm gonna jump right in. Our nose. Ready, coach?
I'm ready, dude.
He's over the center. That's what we say. We just say you're over the center, and then the flexibility starts coming in as we communicate with the mic. So if they are over the center, they are aligned correctly, as long as their job and what they discussed with the mic gets taken care of, right? So now you got kids lining up in a 1, you got kids lining up in a 0. I got kids lining up at different depths. They'll play around, and it's just nice to take that pressure off. I don't go crazy with the alignments. We focus more on the reps later where we start communicating, and we can look at all this stuff as we go, the stance and the keys and all that. But really today, I think if we can just cover the alignment and just the differences in alignment, and then if anybody ever wants to talk about reads or responsibility keys, please email me and we'll talk about it. But
have you heard of the ASCA?
Yes. Yeah. ASKR. Yeah.
Yes. But you got a responsibility, but the ASCA guys say assignment, which is the same thing.
Yes, exactly. I've seen laser. I started looking at laser, which is lock in, which is like reset from the last play, alignment, stance, and then instead of keys, they put eyes. Like where do your eyes go? And then the R is responsibility or whatever. So whatever, laser, ASCA. I
like it. Now your nose, I see it says he's a 2-gap or he slants. Does that vary based on the kid?
Yes, 100%. I've had the sumo wrestler type kid, and then last year I had a kid who should have played linebacker, but we had too many linebackers.
You get out of my head. I was about to say, if you got the sumo, you can just do that sumo technique, punch that center, stand him up, throw him around like a rag doll, and then go to the ball. But when you don't have that kid, like you said, we always had 2. We had that big jug butt that we put in there and just tell them to push to collapse the middle.
Yep.
And then we had the slanting guy that we put in there. Usually he was the third best defensive end.
Yes.
And when he came in, you better believe he was shooting the gap, cuz.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And talk about change-ups, right? I mean, we've changed those kids in the middle of the game. When you start thinking about the Johnnies and the Joes or Jimmies and Joes, that center has been playing 50, 60 plays against a big, strong, tough kid. And then you throw another player at him that all of a sudden is way faster than him. That's a tough deal. That's a tough thing to deal with in the third and fourth quarter. So,
I love those 2 kind of noses. I love those big sumos and those twitchy guys.
Yeah. And being able to teach them all the same techniques and that they have the freedom, it allows you to be really multiple there.
Yep.
So our tackles, I have it still listed as ends here. I got to update my stuff from my last school, but we did change it to tackles simply because of just the name of our stunts. Like if we're calling tex or exit, I actually wanted the tackles to be tackles so that the edge player could be the E for exit, that kind of stuff. But anyway, so these are our tackles, and super advanced again. They're over the tackle, coach, and that's it. We just tell them you are on the tackle, and that's going to end up meaning that you're in a 5, a 4, or a 4-eye, and really you're going to fit opposite the backer behind you. And we don't have really a base place to be. We start with really wherever they want to be. If we're just calling a base call and they come out in something that allows us to stack, these guys will communicate before the play and say in or out. So they might slant to it, they might stem to it, they might start there. So they're going to be over the tackle, and they're going to be communicating a lot with the backer behind them.
When I first started, we were a 4-4 stack team back in 1985. You really can't do a 4-4 stack anymore because of what's happened on offense.
Right.
That's what we would do. We'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 was the left DN and the left outside linebacker. 4 was the right DN and the right outside linebacker, and 2 and 3 were the inside. And we'd have them communicate every snap, pre-snap. What have you got? What have I got? And the backer was in charge. If he told the lineman go left, it didn't matter what the call was. You do what you were told to do by your backer.
Yeah.
Similar. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
I mean, you see it a lot. Like you see it really not overdone, but like it's very clear at like the youth level where you see them like tapping the pads and stuff like that. And I think there's some validity to it because, you know, as long as they're playing sound defense, they make it look like you're making a lot of different calls. There's no way I could make that number of calls and get them right. If those kids know what to show that tackle, you know, play to play, you know, hey, this time we should just go right at him. This time we should be slanting. This time we get a stunt and move around. You know, those kind of things really help, you know, give ownership to the players, and it confuses the opponent without you having to do, you know, all the perfect calls that seem to be made by the best coaches. But I don't know. I don't know if I can make them. So moving on to the mic, he's going to be stacked behind the nose. We say 5 to 7 yards, but he's going to prowl. He's going to move a lot as long as he can get to his job. He's going to be somewhere in the box, but his starting point is behind the nose. If there's trips, he's going to bump to the guard, and that's really where he's going to be.
His depth depends on the kid too, right?
Correct.
What do you want? Maybe the better, deeper?
Yeah.
Better player can line up deeper.
Exactly. Yep. And the newer kids sometimes deeper. I want them to think, you know, I never want them to be stuck in the mud at, you know, 2.5, 3 yards. So, you know, I'd rather a kid start deeper if they're not confident and just treat it like a blitz. You know, especially like JV freshman level. A lot of people do these presentations based on varsity level, and I think, you know, getting a kid at the freshman level to say, hey, dude, start at 7 and just start sprinting, and you'll recognize your keys while you're moving, and then as you get more comfortable, yeah, it's probably more reasonable to have you at 5. But I don't want you at 4 and then second guessing yourself, and then you're stuck, and then the lineman is the hammer at 3 yards on you. So yeah, definitely their depth will change, and depending on what their backers are doing as well. I mean, this is an old bear front technique that I use, but based on how many tight ends there are, the backers will sometimes go down and stack on those tight ends, or go head up on those tight ends. And if that's the case, I want my mic deeper, because now I only have one person at linebacker depth. I can't afford him making a mistake. So I want him deeper. More O linemen are covered when we roll those backers down. So that would put him deeper too.
Oh, I was going to, one of the things we used to teach young backers is their run fits. We told them they're delayed blitzes.
That's all it is.
You're blitzing every play, and they go, so what do you mean? Said, okay, when you get that key to fit there, it becomes a post snap blitz.
Absolutely.
That's because, you know, young kids want to blitz.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell them, say, hey, everything, unless they throw it, everything's a blitz. You're just waiting to see what gap you're blitzing in, you're fitting in.
Yeah.
And so you made me think of that.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's at all levels, really. If players are playing confident and fast, you got a good shot. I mean, if you have a kid who's hesitant already, I mean, is he really going to help you in pass coverage that much anyway? I mean, especially a brand new player, you know, you get that kid who's playing football for the first time on your JV team. You want them to have some success too. So the backers, this is about as complex as it gets, but it's really not. I mean, their home base is stacked on the D tackle, and then they're going to have options to have an out call. All out means is that I'm out of the stack. If I am out of the stack, that means that the D tackle is now responsible for the B gap. So they can be a B gap player from anywhere they want. They can stay in that 5 tech. They can go to a 4. They can go to a 4I, as long as they read the guard and they have the B gap. And we can talk keys again later on if you want. So
the middle diagram is an example of a stack. I mean, of an out.
Exactly. That would be an out call on the right side. Yep. So in this case, these two have stayed in the stack on the left, and they've decided that the D tackle, the D end, is going to stay in a 5, so that the backer will be the B gap player. And, you know, they can stem, they can move, as long as they make a decision before the play. You know, this could happen later where he slants or stems and he has the C gap, but that's where he's starting. If he's leaving, he's got to tell this D tackle that he has the B gap. So he calls out, which means I'm out. That means you got to be in. Or he'll just whisper it. We don't have to yell it out loud all the time, but if it's, you know, if he sees a formation coming out, hey, out, now we can stem and play a little bit.
So the twins formation in the middle diagram tells the stack backer, I'm out. So he needs to let the DN know you've got help outside, so you've got to play B gap.
Exactly. Yep. I will definitely take C gap because I need to leave the box to help in coverage. and this will tie in with our coverage
I was
later.
wondering when you were saying you give them ownership, which I'm all for, but how do they know? And that very good. Now, you could, like, if you've got a blitz called, Coach Byrne,
Yes.
does that override their ownership?
Yeah. Usually what we do when we call our blitzes, we want them to align like they're in base. We always want them to align like they're in base, and then they can adjust. If the blitz that we call really needs to be done just from a stack, then we'll stay there and we'll do it. But
Okay.
if we called some sort of blitz from this backer, if we called strong outside and we wanted that backer to go, I'd want him to start out here. Let these guys think that we're running our regular, cover two stuff and creep up, make everything look like base, because that's one part of this defense that looks good, and we'll show it on film. 3-man rush and 4-man rush can be just as dangerous as your blitzes, because you don't know who's coming. The kids are in all different spots, and it can be very confusing for a lineman. And all you need is one lineman to mess up his protection, and you get somebody one-on-one, even when you're only rushing 3 or 4. So huge advantage for us.
That's a great thing about the 3-3 stack is that I remember when we were really good on defense, coaches telling me later, they said, Coach, it was like you were playing with 15 kids.
Yeah.
We don't know where they're coming from.
Right. And when you give them a steady diet of a 3-man rush plus a delayed blitz from a backer, all of a sudden when you send 5 right away, it looks like you're sending 8. And it's really tough for people to deal with. So the reasons for that out call that would get backers to leave the stack, obviously that anytime the number 2 is removed and there's no tight end, and so both those conditions have to be there. If there's a tight end, that's going to overrule it. We're going to keep that backer closer to the tight end. So if that's the case, he's going to apex it. He's going to become a force player outside the box. So starts to look very similar to what a 4-3 outside backer would be and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll do different things for sure. If they have a tight end, like in this case here on the left, this backer could theoretically, if he wanted to, he could make an out call and go stack up here on that tight end, which would mean he's going to be a C gap spill player, and that'll bump his D tackle into the B gap. So it just depends on what we want to do with that tight end. If we feel like it's pretty dangerous for that tight end to down block on our D tackle because he's really talented, we're going to put someone up in his face, and we'll play that backer position from there.
So you put him at a 6, a head up, or on the okay.
Yeah, it'd be. I mean, he can really line up anywhere on the tight end. He has the same rule now as the tackle, just with the tight end. So he's going to be a C gap player. How can you play C gap spill on the tight end? If you have to play it from a 6-eye or whatever, I know I call it a 6-eye, Coach.
Oh, you mean 7, 6-eye, something.
Yeah. So if you play it from a 6-eye or a 6, that's pretty normal. But you could play it from a 7 or a 9, whatever you want to call it, outside shade of the tight end, as long as you're better than him and you can cross his face if you need to. If you can wash the whole thing with him and be an outside shade, then you're a beast. So they're welcome to do that. But we would know that in practice. We might tell this backer, hey, we're seeing a good tight end this week. Don't mess around. Let's be in a 6-eye. Make sure we swallow up that C gap, make it bounce, waste his block on you, and get someone else free. And then the last reason for the stack backer to leave the box is unbalanced formation. So this is one of the staples of what makes this defense simple. We see a lot of teams that up in the Northeast that are unbalanced, and a lot of the spread teams go 4 strong. And so against 4 strong or an unbalanced formation, we only have one man adjust. We have the backside linebacker adjust. So I'll show you a bunch of unbalanced formations later, but that would have him leave the box as well. So let's say, Coach, let's use this backer again. You can see my cursor, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this left backer, let's say they had an unbalanced formation on the right. This tight end did a tight end trade, and he's over there now. This backer is the only one that needs to identify unbalanced formations. And the way he does it is we just tell him count 1, 2, and nobody else. So if you only see 2 people on the line, all right, then you're going to call out, and you're going to go to what we call a short stack over on the other side. You're going to go to a short stack somewhere in this triangle here. We might put you on the edge, but usually we're going to put you in some sort of short stack to just swallow up all these blocks. And so we'll just tell them 1, 2, nobody else, or 1, 2, and the referee having his hand back, right? So if a lot of players don't recognize this, but the referee on the sideline will hold the opponent's side hand back, saying that the widest man is off the line of scrimmage. So if that's the case, if you only see 2 linemen and a ref with his hand back, that's unbalanced the other way. You got to get out of there and short stack on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our one way to handle unbalanced, and it's
smart.
discipline. Yeah,
That's very smart.
when you start teaching unbalanced to 6 kids and 2 of them mess it up, it's not right. So I'd rather just get the backers really good at it, and everybody else gets to just play regular football.
All right, coaches, we're going to stop part 1 of this special edition of the Guest Coach Series with Coach Jack Byrne of Campbell High School in Litchfield, New Hampshire. I broke it up into 5 parts because we talked for over 2 hours. I did not want to stop him. It was good stuff. I have not done near enough defensive stuff on Football Talk with Coach Chip, and I thought it was time to go deep. And Coach Byrne, he gave it to us with both barrels, y'all. And there's 4 more parts to this. They're not all the same length. Some are shorter than others. Some are longer than others, because I did break them up into topics and just went back after we got through and just found, okay, that's a good place to break. I'll break there. And so that's why it's going to look like, some of them are 17, 20 minutes, whatever, and some of them are 30, 40 minutes. And that's because of the topics that he was discussing and the concepts he was discussing and the parts of the defense he was discussing. Please be sure to go back and look at his contact information, and I'll put it in the show notes below in the comment section. And you be sure to comment as well and tell Coach Byrne and I what you think and any questions. Do not hesitate to contact him. His stuff is there. He's there for you, and he can give you a lot more information. I'll tell you what, don't ask me about the stuff that he just talked. All I will do is I'll say, hey, Coach, thanks for the email. Here's Coach Burns, and let you go do it right there, because this is his baby, okay? I was just giving him a way to get it out there. And go back and check out the podcast, Football Talk with Coach Chip, the podcast, episode 40-something in there. Our discussion with Coach Byrne, which is where this idea germinated to bring him on. I thought, hey, he'd be a good guest for the Guest Coach Series and talk about defense. And that's why we did it that way. Hey, special thank you to our sponsors, our partners, Just Play Sports Solutions. Head over there, check them out. I've been using them since 2021. The product is so good. I paid for it myself all those years, before we were able to hook up and discuss something we could do that would be hopefully mutually beneficial. I know it's beneficial to me. It's the best diagramming tool I've ever used, ever. So be sure to go over there and check that out and talk with Coach Rumsey. You can go back at the beginning of this video and get the information. Look in the bottom and get the information, or look at the next part 2. It's going to be in there. So I'll see you over there at part 2 with Coach Jack Byrne and his 3-3 stack defense and giving players ownership in what they do on the field. Until next time, y'all, be elite.